Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here with a oolong tea. It's a 2011, but it should give us a kind of hint as to what can and may happen for 2012 as far as if this is going to be a purchase for you. I'm scooping out enough using my fingers, and they're clean and no fragrances on them from any kind of soaps or lotions or anything. And I'm raking in enough to cover the bottom inch to inch and a half bottom surface of my BaiJiGuan here. It's about a 3-ounce BaiJiGuan. And this is a pretty bulky, this is a Wu-Yi style oolong tea. Talk a little bit more about that in just a second. My water's been brought to a boil. It's been cooling for about a minute now, but it's still got plenty of heat to it, so it should do just fine. And I'm going to add enough water here. A little bit will sit above the rim of my lid when I finish. A couple more drops there. Get this kettle out of the way. Put the lid on and let that steep for a minute. Talk about this tea. This is from the ImperialTeaCourt, which is based in San Francisco. Roy Fong, kind of one of the founding fathers of loose leaf teas. The tea is sometimes called the tea renaissance in the U.S. He helped bring in and really introduce a lot of the early adopters as far as what teas, especially Chinese teas, can and should taste like. He opened the door for things like pu'ers, and lots of other teas, like I said, in particular and especially from China. So this one is the ImperialTeaCourt's BaiJiGuan oolong. It's, like I said, it's a 2011 harvest, 2012 harvest. Has not occurred yet, or at least hasn't occurred in completion. But you can get an 8-gram taster of BaiJiGuan from 2011 for $9. Again, this is from the Wu-Yi mountain area of Fujian province of China. 8-gram taster, $9. I think I got actually the 1-ounce size. This is what you see here, the 1-ounce size, $25, $26, somewhere in there. So, talking about this tea, going to look at of course, the 3 main areas: the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a smell here. Light aromas. There's a sweet wood type of note. Not quite sandalwood, but a sweet, fragrant type of wood. Let me give another smell here. Let me breathe on it too. Now, when I breathe on it, then the heat and the moisture gets in there, warms it up a little bit, and I start to get a light, relatively faint, peachy type note. Again, this is kind of a toasted peach or a grilled peach. Put a peach on the grill type of smell. A little bit of almost overbaked. So it's got a lot of peach cobbler comes to mind. A nice crust on the peach cobbler. Peaches have almost started to get scorched, kind of thing. But it's pleasant, it's sweet, it's fruity, it's got some nice warm, toasty, caramelized type notes to it. So, pulling out a few of these leaves, using my fingers here, do just like so. That looks good. Get this one that tried to escape here. A lot of the characteristic Wu-Yi look and shape to these tea leaves, you see twisted along the length of the vein, so that they are kind of crinkled and twisted along lengthwise along the leaf. I'm getting nice, moving from a very dark olive drab greenish type color over more towards almost a kind of a pale grayish brown type color, and that's the more dominant color here. Now, in comparison to, say, a Da Hong Pao or some other of your Wu-Yi teas, this one looks fainter in color. It's a bit lighter in color. It's not the deeper, richer, chocolatey type colors that I see in many Da Hong Paos, for example. Shui Xians, I see some Shui Xians that are close to this. Others, again, that move a little bit more towards a darker brown with a little bit less of the grayish tinge to it. Length of the leaves here are pretty good. Many of these are over an inch in length, which means that optimistically we're not getting a lot of leaf portions. We're getting full intact leaves. So let me try to get this back into. This is going to be tough because my package here is not an opening that is easily where the leaves are not easily returned, but that looks good enough. That should set that aside now. Actually, one of my leaves fell right here. So I'm going to go now to pouring this particular tea. So I can talk about the wet leaf here and then move on to the liquor from there. So I angle my lid over to the side. If you eat at the ImperialTeaCourt in the Ferry Building in San Francisco, and you ask for a cup of tea, oftentimes, especially if it's a Chinese, and you want it in the traditional Chinese style, you can get your tea served in a BaiJiGuan like this, and so you actually drink straight from the BaiJiGuan. Okay, and that takes a little bit of getting used to. You have to have a saucer at the bottom, and you may need to kind of train yourself to hold like so, and sip from the opening there. But we'll talk about that more later. We'll loosen these leaves by shaking them so it kind of allows them all to breathe and flatten out at the bottom there. Aromas are relatively light. I'm not that peachy aspect and the sweet kind of lightly charred, scorched, sweet tart fruit freshness there is not coming to the fore as much as I thought it would. It's there, but it's subtle, and there's a little bit of a kind of a warm grape skin. If you had some nice red table grapes, globe grapes, and you could squeeze the meat out and left with a little bit of the skin, you warm that up. You put it on a cookie sheet, put it in the oven, warm that up a little bit, dry it out a little bit. That's a little bit of the kind of stuff you would start to smell here. Now I'm going to take out a few of these leaves and kind of look at them. A lot of these leaves have mostly unfurled. I'm able to quite easily just kind of flatten those out, smooth those out, and pull those leaves apart there. That was just after that one steeping. This one here is another one, a larger portion. It's a large leaf, but you do not find the stem end or the tip of the leaf. But what I do see is a lot of rust type colors, especially along the edges of the leaf here, on the jagged edge there. Deep, dark oxidation type colors there, so that you can tell that was a part of the oxidation process. These were allowed to change color, and that oxidation process is what can release a lot of the aromas and flavors that are characteristic of a tea like this. Another one here, more deeply oxidized, a lot of browning there, moving again from the outer edge in towards the middle vein there. So I'm going to set that one there as an example too. But that's generally what I see. Here and there you'll get a little piece of stem, just like that. Very, very rarely. I mean, I see 1, 2, maybe 3 of those kind of pieces. So they're not anywhere near a significant portion of this tea. I'm going to move now and talk about this liquor. We kind of swirl that a little bit, and it's a nice orangey. It's a yellow-orange type color, so it's got some richness there to it. It's not a dull, flat color. But it is light. It's not compared to other wui teas, it is not the richest deepest color. Let me give it a taste here. Aroma's picking up more. I'm getting my fairly good bit of aroma. Again, this is that kind of scorched, deeply baked peach type tart sweetness there. That's the prominent taste that comes out here as well. Texture-wise, it's fairly light. It does have a gentle, mild coating sitting on the edges of the tongue, moving inwards towards the center of the tongue, about middle ways of the tongue, not near the tip or the back, really. Not a lot of very low astringency as well. The texture, and then moving on to the aftertaste as well. Not the most intense, and there is a kind of sweetness that builds up, but it plateaus. It rises up, and I feel like it's going to be a fruity type of sweet that actually makes the mouth water. But instead, it rises up, builds the sweetness, and then just kind of falls flat. It sits on the tongue and almost gives this dry sensation. It gets a bit of mouth-watering sensation kind of outside, on the far outside, outer side of your teeth, and inside of your cheeks there. So it's not the deepest, fullest, richest aftertaste I've experienced. And in relation to other Wu Yi teas, it's lower in that sense as far as BaiJiGuans go. I've had some that were able to pull more of that kind of aftertaste and that richness out than this one. As it cools now, builds up a little bit. It's starting to build a little bit more of the sweetness there. It's starting to get more pronounced. It's starting to balance out with some of that astringency. So perhaps letting this tea cool a little bit will awaken the tea a little bit more, allow you to be more aware of some of those type of things. But looking at this tea, I'm going to have to give this tea an 84. I mean, off-camera tastings, I did 2 or 3 steepings back to back. It held on for about 2 or 3, but still it never really rose. It didn't fall very much. It was fairly consistent, but it wasn't an impressive consistency. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find those teas that are going to be that right temperature, at the right temperature for you, going to find that right level of taste and enjoyment.